Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another Skinwalkers encounter video here. This one once again coming from the reddit.com website, there from the subreddit called Skinwalkers. This one is a pretty frightful encounter, one that actually includes not just a potential skinwalker, but also a witch. So those of you that are out there in Navajo land or any other type of Native American land, if you ever come across skinwalkers, there may actually be a chance they're in cahoots with witches. Somebody may need to explain that to me as well, like if it's the witch is the same as the skinwalker and vice versa, or are they truly separate beings just working together for their own nefarious reasons. But it comes with a title called Skinwalkers at My Old House, and it's from a user. It's called Steezy Zeke. So let's go ahead and let's share this user's entry here, and then I will once again give my own comments with regards to their experience. So here's what they have to say. I live in Gallup, New Mexico. I am a Navajo, 21 years old. I have family that lives on a plot of land south of Gallup, about halfway between Zuni and the latter. It's about 30 minutes to drive to my family's land, and is surprisingly not deep in the woods, which shows how much of a plaque these witches are to my people. It's off the main highway and it's only a block to get there. I remember first being in close proximity with a witch when I was about 7. I was at my uncle's house, and our land has 3 homes on it. He and my mom and his girlfriend were drinking, and my uncle went to take a piss out the front door. I remember he freaked out and said there was a skinwalker outside, and me being a little freaked out as well, and his girlfriend said it was just okay, it was just Scooby-Doo, trying not to make me panic too much. Since it's been so long, I remember those important details only. After that, I have no memory of what happened. So that uncle died that year, and I always think what could have been between me and him, now that I feel so alone and my remaining family isn't as cool as he was with me. Anyway, to be clear, I have never seen a witch, but these details are unfortunately true. So jump up a couple of years, and I am in the 8th grade. My grandpa, who lived with my mom and I, is now in the hospital. I end up sleeping in his room because I always slept on my mom's floor due to being creeped out by the thought of a witch trying to peer inside my window or hearing the noises it could make. And so I wanted to sleep in there because he has also cable within his room. His room is on the opposite end of the trailer where my mom slept. And so it's about 5 a.m. and I wake up to the most terrifying language I've ever heard. It sounded like a cross between a hyena and a pig. The constant chit-chat between whatever was outside my grandpa's window haunted me in that instance, and I listened for a couple of seconds, but I closed my ears as hard as I could out of pure terror. The most scared I've ever been was in that moment. After the ordeal, I went to my mom's room and into her bed telling her what happened, and I was shaking a little bit. And so I had school that morning, and so I went to start the car. The spot where I heard the noise, there was a trailer hitch, and sitting in it was this stray dog. My grandma hired a medicine man before or after that happened, and he said that the dog was in cahoots with the witches. I tried to get rid of him, but that dog always came back. It was skinny and it was skittish, and I always had a bad vibe from that dog, which doesn't happen as I love dogs. Anyway, that happened, and what I get most of that encounter was how truly scared I was to be alone and a small kid hearing evil, and I pitied myself in that moment. A year later, my freshman year of high school, my mom died, and whether or not those jealous witches contributed to her death, I'll ponder once in a while. She died from a bad cold, mucus in her lungs. I was asleep in her room, but not on her bed. And so I went to bed about 10 p.m. And in the morning, she was very weak and cold, like she was hallucinating. And she didn't get under the blankets to keep warm, because when I woke up, she was sitting in front of her bed. That day changed my life completely, as I've never stayed at that house regularly since she died. I stay with my dad now in town. Weird circumstances. She died the same day we took her to the hospital. Anyway, I remember first hearing a story from someone in my family, but not the nitty-gritty of it. They mentioned it like a good drinking Mary, so details wouldn't be as known until my grandpa told me about it while we were sitting at a Denny's. He said our family may be actively a target of those evil witches. He said once in the 90s when my uncles and their friends were at my grandma's land, which is on the same road as their land I mentioned, which was with those three houses, but you just go a little bit to the end of that paved road and then it turns into into that forest and a dirt road. Well, it's not a road that is actively traveled on. It just leads to some good wood hauling spots and these power lines, but there are a bunch of crannies and paths that lead to who knows where. No one lives out here, just my grandma's cows, which is the reason why we have land out here. Anyway, my uncle's group sees a fire and a witch doing a dance ritual there on top of a hill or mesa. And so they begin to shoot at it, and then it sees them, and they take off for whatever reason. Personally, I would have stuck around and been a man about it, but they probably had their girlfriends with them who were freaking out. And so they leave, and that witch chases them out from wherever they were. Keep in mind, this area has a lot of trees and isn't barren and flat like most of the Navajo Nation. And since it was on the same road that my uncle's friends also live nearby my grandma, they didn't say it, but inferred that the witch followed and that followed them, my uncles, back to where my family land was. And so if you're from this area, you know many people who have claimed to see these evil things and other stories involving anybody other than the people around here. They're just stories. And so my family and the history of the area they settled in is real. I'm just a regular kid who likes regular stuff. I wouldn't type all this if it weren't true. I don't like fake paranormal stories, and you wouldn't either if the paranormal was just a footstep away. And so after all this damage these witches have done, no one wants to talk about it or do anything about it. What is there to do? And so the trailer where my grandpa and mom and I lived is at a dump, mice reading everywhere, and then since my grandpa died last year, no one lives in it. A bunch of good memories of me growing up in it for it to just turn out like it has. Is there anything I would like to tell you? If there's anything that I would like to tell you, is that those you don't take for granted those that you've loved. I wish I had more time with those I've lost. It's been 6 years now since my mom died, and each day is a day I inch further away from her and my small memories of her. Then that's it. That's everything that this user Steezy Zeke had to say about their frightful encounter. So lots of stuff to talk about here. First off, we actually have an exact city to mention here, Gallup, New Mexico. Anybody from there or anybody know about that area? That'd be an interesting location if someone is more local to find out, what are your experience with regards to it? Is it truly this remote area there that has both the skinwalkers and then also witches? So much so, in fact, that this user encountered them multiple times, and it seems like multiple generations of them encountered them as well. It was interesting to read, too, regarding the origin of these haunts. Like, it seems like it all came from that 90s period whenever the family member was out there and the other family members were there, too. They saw this witch doing that bizarre dance out there. They shot at it. It immediately started chasing them, and most unfortunately, it followed them straight to the home. I imagine that when that happens, they don't forget those type of addresses, right? And so I could totally understand why they were basically out there haunting them to this very day. And so also the other thing that truly was terrifying was hearing that language that they spoke. That really, really gave me the heebie-jeebies. The idea that it sounded like something between a cross and a hyena and a pig. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine something along those lines? You hear something that nefarious, that sinister out there out of your window, hearing it. You can't necessarily see it, but you know it's there, and it seems to be like this strange communication. It reminded me of this, kind of like a bad example, but still, I just wanted to mention it. Way back when the first Silent Hill movie came out, like back in 2005, they had a great website that you could visit. The website would eventually be a regular website, but kind of like in the film, whenever it turns to the dark side, the screen starts cracking and then things start falling apart, and then it reveals another website where now you're in the Silent Hill version of that website. I remember, though, they played this background sound. It was like this weird mumbling, like it was like people were talking to each other, but it was low, dark, sinister voices in a weird language you could not understand, and they were just repeating this type of conversations with each other over and over. I remember it was very unsettling whenever I heard that within my computer, and so I could just imagine something along these lines, something you couldn't quite understand, but you know it's not good to do so. Plus, he saw that dog, right? Something that we mentioned in some of the past videos here too. This dog that apparently was staying at that exact spot where he heard that sinister sound from the night before, and it was there, and it was just pretty much apparently linked to everything involved. Crazy story. Hopefully with this user they were able to at least get out of there or go someplace else that doesn't have any connections to it. Is it any wonder that they ended it by saying that nobody really lives there anymore? Whoever these were, these skinwalkers and witches, they just pretty much claimed that area there after this entire time period. And so that time from his young age to now, it just goes to show the effects of these things afterward. But if anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed about these type of things, please let me know. Plus, again, is there a link between the two? Is it one and the same? Skinwalkers, witches? Just love to hear what your comments are. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.